Everyone warns you about the body. The doctors warn you about your heart, your bones, your blood pressure. The bank warns you about your money. But whoever sits across from you and warns you about the strangest thing of all, that somewhere between 65 and 75, life doesn't get harder so much as it gets heavier. Here is the strange part. The years people fear as the time you slowly lose yourself might be the first years in your whole life when you could finally find yourself. Both can be true at once. And the difference between them, between losing and finding, may come down to one question you've spent decades too busy to ask. You know the heaviness already, even if no one named it for you. The grocery bag you carried without a thought for 40 years suddenly seems to weigh more. The phone that used to ring all the time goes quiet. You catch yourself pausing at the bottom of the stairs, running a small private calculation about whether the trip is even worth it. Nothing dramatic. No single morning where everything changes. It arrives like fog, slow, quiet, almost polite. And because no one warned you, you start to suspect the problem is you. That you're failing. That you've gone weak somewhere inside. But what if the heaviness isn't your failure at all? What if it's a question life is finally asking you out loud? There was a man in Athens, 24 centuries ago, who spent his whole life asking people one irritating thing. Not, what should you do? Not, how do you fix this? He asked, do you actually know what you think you know? His name was Socrates, and he left behind a sentence that sounds simple until it follows you home. The unexamined life, he said, is not worth living. And carved above the temple at Delphi were two words he treated as the work of a lifetime: know thyself. Now hold those words up against the decade between 65 and 75. Because here is what I want to ask you, and I'd like you to sit with it instead of rushing past it. For most of your life, did you ever truly examine who you were? Or did you just stay busy enough that you never had to? Most of us never examine. There's no time. There's a job, a mortgage, children who need shoes, parents who get sick, 100 small fires every single day. You knew who you were because someone needed you. You were the provider. The mother. The boss. The one who fixed things. Every morning came with instructions attached. And a life full of instructions feels like a life full of meaning, right up until the instructions stop. So let me ask the questions the years are already whispering. The ones the loud voices online want to answer for you. I'd rather you answered them yourself. First. When was the last time a day surprised you? Look closely. Same roads, same meals, the same chair every evening, the same program on the same screen, the days blurring together like someone photocopied your life over and over. It feels safe. It feels comforting. But ask yourself, is your mind still recording these days, or has it quietly stopped? Socrates believed the soul stays alive through inquiry, through the friction of meeting something it doesn't already understand. So I won't order you to do one new thing a week. I'll only ask, if your days have become identical, who decided that? And what would happen to your attention tomorrow if you simply walked down a street you've never walked? Second. Did the people leave you, or did the wanting leave first? Be careful here, because the easy answer is to blame the world. They stopped calling. They forgot me. But look closer. First you skip a phone call because you're tired. Then you decline an invitation because home is easier. Then 6 months pass and the silence starts to feel like proof that nobody cares. Yet often nobody disappeared. What disappeared was the impulse to reach out. And this is where Socrates would press you, gently, the way he pressed everyone. You say you want connection, but do you move like someone who wants it, or like someone waiting to be wanted? He'd want you to notice the difference between solitude, which can feed a spirit, and loneliness, which slowly starves it. One you choose. The other chooses you, while you sit waiting for a feeling that may never arrive first. So which one are you living in, and how would you even know? Third, and this one bruises the pride. Can you let someone help you without feeling ashamed? Our whole generation was raised to believe strength means carrying the weight alone, in silence. You got very good at it. But Socrates built his entire method on the opposite instinct. He walked the marketplace announcing, out loud, that he didn't know. That was his famous wisdom, knowing that he did not know. He let other minds do work his own couldn't. So I'll ask what he might ask. When you wave off every offer of help, are you protecting your dignity, or are you shutting the people who love you out of the act of loving you? Is, "I'm fine," the truth, or is it the most expensive lie you tell? Fourth, the one your body asks before you do. You're standing at the foot of a ladder you've climbed 1,000 times, and for the first time your body speaks before you move. Are we sure about this? Notice what happened there. It wasn't that you couldn't. It's that the automatic confidence was gone. And here's the trap almost no one sees: the body rarely stops first. The willingness stops first. You avoid one hard movement, then another, and slowly you teach yourself a smaller life, until the muscles, obedient, agree to it. Socrates spoke of an inner voice, a daimonion, that warned him away from things. So maybe that's the real question. When you decided that climbing, lifting, bending was no longer for you, was that wisdom warning you, or was it fear, wearing wisdom's robes and hoping you wouldn't check? Fifth, the heaviest. Have you made your grief mean the wrong thing? By your 70s you carry invisible absences. A spouse. A brother. Friends. Parents long gone. Even whole streets and restaurants that exist now only inside you. The grief stopped arriving in storms, it wove itself into ordinary mornings instead. You pour the coffee and suddenly remember who used to sit across from you. A song plays in a store and your chest tightens for 10 seconds before you go on shopping as if nothing happened. The young think grief is something you finish. You know better, it changes shape, it goes quiet, but it stays. So here is the reframe Socrates would offer, the kind that turns a wound inside out. What if remembering is not the injury, but the proof that you loved well? Missing someone means they mattered. Feeling it still means your heart is alive. The danger was never the grief. The danger is when grief hardens into withdrawal, when you build a shrine out of your pain and quietly move in. So ask yourself plainly, am I carrying my dead with tenderness, or have I stopped living in order to keep them company? And the sixth, the deepest, the one underneath all the others. When no one needs you anymore, who are you? The children are grown. The career is finished. The schedules have dissolved. And one afternoon you sit in a quiet room and think, nobody really needs me today. That sentence has ended more lives than any disease, long before the body ever went. But turn it over in your hands. For 50 years you knew yourself only through your usefulness, through the roles you performed. So is it any wonder that when the roles fall away, you feel like a stranger? Here is what Socrates would not let you miss. You were never the role. The role was the costume. And maybe, this strange, heavy decade is not the world abandoning you. Maybe it's the first time the world has gone quiet enough for you to do the one thing you never had time for. To know yourself. Not the worker. Not the provider. The person underneath all of it, who was there the whole time, waiting. Do you see what's happened? Every heaviness we've named, the sameness, the silence, the wounded pride, the hesitating body, the grief, the lost role, every one of them is the same invitation wearing a different mask. Each is life clearing the room so a single question can finally be heard. The question that man in Athens died rather than stop asking. Who are you, really, when there's nothing left to perform? Because the people who grow old with the most peace are not the richest, or even the healthiest. They're the ones who stopped fighting reality every morning and started examining it instead. They learned softness without surrender. They stopped measuring their worth by speed and usefulness, and learned to receive joy in smaller forms: warm coffee, a grandchild's voice down the line, sunlight through a kitchen window, a quiet walk at dusk. Things that sound small when you're young. Things that become enormous later, if you're paying attention. So I won't tell you what to do this week. Socrates never told anyone what to do. He only asked and trusted that an honest question, sat with long enough, does more than any command ever could. So I'll leave you with his. If life feels heavier now, it isn't because you're failing, it's because you're finally being asked to examine what you spent a lifetime too busy to look at. The years took the costumes. What did they leave standing? And when no one is left to need you, and the room goes quiet, and it's only you, will you finally turn around and meet the person who was there all along?